Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. It is October 28th, 2015. The big news story today was a pretty curious one. The official story was that supposedly this multi-billion-dollar surveillance blimp used by NORAD for missile defense and more became untethered, floating away on a nice strategic path along the eastern seaboard. This blimp is supposed to be able to pick up a lot of information within a 350-mile radius. So that's a pretty big area, 700-mile circumference. Let's watch this mainstream coverage, and then I want to show you everything that stands out in this reporting. It is quite fascinating, Truth Seeker. Here we go.
New details from NORAD, Captain Scott Miller and others talking to us tonight. An official with NORAD, another official I spoke with, says they have nothing to indicate this drifting JLENS was a threat to any city centers or heavily populated areas. Wolf, it became untethered, as Captain Miller mentioned, at the Aberdeen Proving Ground north of Baltimore. A NORAD official we spoke with, says the aerostat is now on the ground in Moreland, Pennsylvania, Montour County. It's up here in northeastern Pennsylvania. We do have reports, Wolf, from Pennsylvania state officials and others of power outages there from cables dragging on the ground. This Twitter picture shows a mark on the ground near Montour County where the cable from the aerostat dragged. There have been no injuries, according to a NORAD official we spoke with. There is a recovery team headed to that area to secure the JLENS, Wolf.
Once it sort of just went up in the sky, there was fear it could have exploded. There's helium inside, right?
That's right. It was certainly a concern for a period of hours here, Wolf. I'll just show you some of the other images of the JLENS. A NORAD official we spoke with says helium, of course, has a flammable quality to it, but he says the JLENS is pressurized inside it. He says that pressure dissipates. As that pressure dissipates, the flammability decreases. He says they do not believe there were any explosions, any punctures, or serious punctures at least, no explosions associated with the grounding of this. Now, on the electronics and everything, that's interesting. NORAD officials tell us the aerostat has very sensitive electronics on board. They've got to secure this quickly. As we said, a recovery team is headed there now. This aerostat has no cameras, but has very sophisticated surveillance radar. Here's a picture of some of the electronics on board. This radar can cover an area the size of Texas, Wolf. It's got the capability to track fast-moving incoming planes and other projectiles, including Wolf, cruise missiles, we're told, just as they're being fired. Very sophisticated technology on board this aerostat. Those recovery teams have to get there quickly and secure this stuff.
Captain Miller said they're investigating how it became untethered. Do we have more information on that, Brian?
Not really, Wolf. No information yet on how it became untethered. They say they're investigating that. What we do know is that the lines, the tether lines, are about 1.1 inches thick. They are tethered very strongly to the ground. They can withstand 100-mile-an-hour winds. But again, that's under investigation as to exactly how this thing became untethered. No word of 100-mile-an-hour winds up in that area of Aberdeen Proving Ground, where we know this was moored about 6,600 feet above the ground today.
So here's an alternate theory to it becoming untethered, Truth Seeker. They make it sound like it's Uncle Ned's fishing boat and he didn't tie the knot tight enough. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar vehicle that the government only has a few of. This was likely a test run, a scenario, and they probably gave the public an excuse why it was on the loose flying over U.S. cities. You know, just report in the media it became untethered. Check this out, Truth Seeker. A NORAD blimp. Notice how blimp and NORAD have the same gematria. I find it interesting. In the back of my mind, I acknowledge that this could be a very real piece of surveillance property for the government, but I also acknowledge that it could be just more fear-mongering and making it seem like they have more capability than they really do. Sometimes I wonder just how powerful the government is, and at the same time how much it overstates its power for intimidation purposes. I mean, we're told that that little piece of computer can surveil essentially the entire state of Texas at once. That is pretty mind-blowing if true. Anyhow, this was real interesting. On CNN, when they first put the blimp on TV, it was 1:46 p.m. Eastern Time, and they were talking about its threat of a power outage. power outage has gematria of 146. This one might seem like a little bit of a stretch, but this cover by The Economist, a lot of people have theorized that the symbolism here has much to do with power outage. And while I don't necessarily pick up on that symbolism, there has been much foreshadowing for a power outage in this nation through a variety of other sources. Anyhow, The Economist has that gematria of 146. Some of the fear-mongering we've gotten in the past decade is of a nuclear blast in the sky, which is called an EMP, which has the power to take out, or has the capability of taking out the power grid. You could interpret this as a nuclear blast in the sky. Anyhow, I just want to make that point. The Economist even ties into the gematria of power outage, and I picked up on that today with CNN's coverage of the story. Also, that Economist cover zeroed in on the dates November 3rd and November 5th. Upcoming. The World Series, if it goes to Game 7, will conclude between those two dates. Talk more about the World Series in just a minute. Also, this headline right here, I forgot to mention. CNN had this headline: NORAD blimp comes loose from tether. And the gematria of that is 146. And again, in this story, they talked about how the blimp caused power outages in some areas. CNN loves to sync up the gematria with the times on the screen. I have documented this many times before. So anyway, as the story went on, they said they brought down the blimp, and there's a lot of interesting gematria here. The headline for when they brought it down, "Runaway NORAD blimp is down," has gematria of 111. This is curious because yesterday at the Game 1 of the 111th World Series, there was a small power outage for Fox that messed up the national broadcast. And what's even creepier is I did a video weeks ago saying how there might be some sort of power outage thing connected to this year's World Series, the 111th. And I did that from decoding past news stories. So here the next day we get this headline about this blimp coming down causing power outages with a 111 headline. Coincidence or not? Alright, so the main details in the story were that the blimp was loosely tied up. It became untied. It floated down the eastern seaboard on a nice path. The cables on it in some parts of the country touched the ground, causing power outages. They had to deploy F-16s. It was brought down in Pennsylvania. Now look where it was brought down. It was brought down in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania in gematria equals 96, and with the S exceptions, 115. Remember, the word Freemason equals 96. The plural equals 115, Freemasons. Pennsylvania, a very Masonic state. Keystone equals 33. 33, an incredibly important number to the Freemasons. We live in a very Masonic nation. The man giving us the story, director Fred Hunsinger, has some interesting name gematria. Fred, a 33 name. Hunsinger, a 115 name. Similar coding. The other location they labeled it as, instead of Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, some sources said Moreland Township, Pennsylvania. Moreland Township, Pennsylvania has the numbers 223, which correspond with the Jewish gematria of Masonic. Masonic equals 223 in Jewish gematria, and also the Synagogue of Satan in simple English gematria, who are the Zionists, the false Jews, the people who control the media. On CNN, they had this guest on talking about it named Carm DePippa. You know, on CNN, so often when they have guests on, they have these incredible names that nobody's ever heard before. So Carm DePippa was on telling us about the blimp. Some interesting name gematria here. We see the kill number. We also see this number of prophecy. A number that's also been big in the World Series. When I did my blackout video for the World Series, I talked about the numbers 111 and 106. Here they pop up in this story too, which is interesting. Should also be noted there's this movie called Black Sunday from March 11th, 1977. The movie runs 2 hours and 23 minutes long, or 143 minutes. This movie is about a blimp hitting the Super Bowl as an act of terrorism. And the teams in the Super Bowl are the Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are also from Pennsylvania. Possibly a coincidence, possibly not. This story very much reminds me of that. The date this was released on was a date with 110 numerology. Remember, the World Trade Centers were 110 stories tall on 9/11. The name Osama bin Laden equals 110. The buildings were proposed and approved by the Rockefeller family. Rockefeller equals 110. Very important number, 110. Often around tragedy. That Charleston church shooting was at 110 Calhoun Street. Calhoun has that gematria of 223. So, here's what else is special about this blimp, Truth Seeker. Joint Land Attack Cruise Missile Defense Elevated Netted Sensor System is what it's called. The acronym is JLENS. They said that the one today was the JLENS Wolf. JLENS Wolf has gematria of 116, 116, or the number 911 upside down. This long name here has gematria of 239, a number that's been coded all throughout the year. What I just found out recently is that September 23rd on the calendar used in a lot of China is the equivalent of November 4th on our calendar. November 4th would be the date of Game 7 of the World Series. Again, we're talking about this 111th World Series. It's also the date between the two dates mentioned on the Economist cover, which are November 3rd and November 5th. Game 7 of the World Series, should it happen, falls on November 4th, in the time of the 114th Congress. Remember, World War equals 114. Pearl Harbor equals 114. Holocaust equals 114. When CNN went on the air with this story today, they made the video 2 minutes and 39 seconds. Their first video, they had Wolf Blitzer, the little demon child, giving the story. Look at Wolf Blitzer's birthday, Truth Seeker. March 22nd, also known as 322 or 22/3, 223, the other number we've been talking about. Wolf Blitzer is very much a Zionist. He's also currently 67 years old. Special number to the Freemasons, the Zionists. The word satanic equals 67. Here's the blimp, $2.7 billion. Supposedly it just became untethered and floated away on a perfect path down the eastern seaboard. And here's another good one, Truth Seeker. They emphasized how long the blimp is. You can go to gematrix.org and just type in a number and things will come up that relate. Look at the gematria of Central Intelligence Agency. What does spy on the nation? 243, just like the length of the blimp. Newsweek equals 33 in gematria, Truth Seeker. The magazine was established in 33. Let me close out with Dabu 7. All day I've been waiting for people to put up videos about this. I had information that I wanted to put out right away, but I just want to see what other kind of content other people generated. Dabu 7's the only person I've seen cover this. Notice that the video he put out is 1:19 in length. All Seeing Eye equals 119. Star of David equals 119. I swear to God, Dabu 7 always codes his videos. The one about the satanic statue was 2 minutes 32 seconds. Satan equals 232 in Jewish gematria. A remixing of those numbers, 322, 223. Here's another video he did recently. He's saying, could the next big false flag be on November 3rd, possibly November 5th, but he thinks November 3rd if you watch this video. He made the video 9 minutes, 11 seconds. Now, I'll admit, sometimes my videos come out at coincidental lengths, but Dabu7 does it a lot, and in this video, he's talking about the next 9/11. What he doesn't mention is that The Economist, or just Economist alone in gematria, equals 113, this special number to the Masons and the Zionists. Scottish equals 113 as well, just like mainstream, dishonest, green screen. Anyway, Dabu7, the only other person on the web with content about this right now. So I just want to expose some more information and expose Dabu7 at the same time. If you're a subscriber of his, you should most definitely subscribe to my channel because the content is much richer over here. Until next time. Encore Truth Seeker, one last point. The nation is currently 239 years old. This is a very spiritual number. I've done a lot of posts giving information about this, but the nation will be 239 years old until July 4th of next year. So just one more thing to keep in mind. Alright, until next time.